Hi, I'm Kelly Czarnecki and I'm a technology education librarian at the Public Library of Charlotte in Mecklenburg County. I'm going to talk about my library's geocaching program that I developed this spring. So my library got funding from the National Endowment for the Arts for our Big Read program. And the Big Read program is where the community comes together, we discuss a book, we have activities around this book, and it's really to bring the community closer and more enlightened. And our book that we chose was To Kill a Mockingbird. And what we wanted to do is something a little bit different. So in addition to the book discussions and the movie viewings, we wanted to have some kind of technology, interactive, game-based activity that people could participate in, for the purpose of participating in a book differently, as well as bringing different people that might not come to the library regularly into the mix. And what we came up with was geocaching. And what geocaching is basically is a treasure hunt. And the treasure hunt is using what's called GPS units, or Global Positioning System units. And I only have a photo of one because the ones that I used I rented and had to return. But this is what it looks like. And this is a very common model. It's called the Garmin eTrucks model. They run for about roughly $100, or you can get them cheaper, maybe about $60 on eBay, or even cheaper than that. And what it does is it connects with the 24 satellites that we have in space. And it will give you coordinates on this unit that you can match with a position on the earth, so to speak. And so that's how people can hide caches or clues or treasures, and then people can walk around with this unit, find those coordinates, and then find those treasures. So that's basically how it works. And I had known nothing about geocaching when I first started. I didn't grow up in a geocaching family, that's something we didn't do, so I was pretty much starting from scratch. And what I decided to do was to look locally. Were there any organizations? Were there any clubs? Were there anyone that might be out there that could help us in a consultancy position? And sure enough, there was. I found an organization online called the GP Seeker, which is just gpseeker.com. And what it is an organization that develops events for people around geocaching. So say your company picnic is going out somewhere for the summer, and you want them to be able to do some geocaching because it would be fun. Well, GP Seeker would develop this, knowing where your picnic's going to be. They would have the units provided, and they would have all the clues, and just make it a fun experience for your group. And so when working with this company, I was able to meet with the owner one-on-one, and we met at a library branch, and he was able to really walk me through, how do you set up a series geocaching event? Where do you start? And the information that he was able to help me with consisted of, what kind of container do you put your treasure in? What does a treasure consist of? Does it always have to be an object? Can it be coordinates on a sign? Don't make your geocaching clues too hard, till people will get too frustrated. And how do you bring staff into the mix that might not be geocachers themselves? So he was wonderful in being able to help with that. And that was my first step. So my second step was, how do I involve staff into this? And one of the things that I did was come up with a very basic informational sheet here on how to use the unit. So I didn't expect every staff member that could be at a service desk in the branches that we chose to do this at would know how to do geocaching. But at least they had this sheet. They could pull it out and help the person that was working with, that was wanting to do the cache, and give them that information, so at least they would have something. I also worked with my contact at the branches in terms of telling them, where the cache is hidden, and of course asking them to make sure I could put the cache there in the first place. Even though we do work for the same library system, I just wanted to make sure this was all good, that this is happening and where this is being hidden. And, they were great with that. So telling the staff, what the cache is, where it's hidden, and then if people come in and, they're getting frustrated about trying to find the cache, I would also give the staff like 3 steps that they could help the patron be able to better find the clue without saying, oh, it's up in the tree, just go up there and find it. No, one of the first clues might have been, well, look at the signs around the area that you're at. Or another clue might be, yes, you're going in the right direction, or, you really want to head out those doors and start there. So giving them steps to help the person, like I said, without telling them, exactly where and what it is. And another way that I was able to involve staff was we have a teen services retreat twice a year, and we just had one in November. And we were able to be in a park, be outside, and I thought, wow, what a perfect opportunity. I'll have these units that I rented, which I'll talk about in a second where I got those from, and we'll get them in staff members' hands. I'll wrap some books, I'll hide them out in the forest, and it actually was a great success, but a really good opportunity to get staff involved, comfortable, somewhat knowledgeable with it, enough to be able to pass on that information to other staff. And if you don't have retreats where it's really hard to get a big number of people together, one thing you can do is perhaps just leave the units in the staff lounge. They won't work outside, so it will have to be an outside activity, but let people take them outside and have clues in hand that they can go find some things and, just get comfortable that way. But I would highly recommend doing that if you can. And so the place where I was able to get the units from, and again, I just did some old-fashioned searching on the internet to find this organization, because I wanted to see, are there scholarships out there? Are there grants? Can I apply for something? I really want to be able to have these units in hand instead of asking everyone to bring their own. And I was able to find an organization called GITA, which is spelled G-I-T-A, and it's on the internet at gita.org. And I'm going to look here what it stands for, because I wrote it down, and it stands for Geospatial Informational and Technology Association. And then within that association, they have a program called Learning and Education. And what this program does is put together kits of these GPS units. And you can get them for free, though you do have to make a deposit in case anything is returned damaged. But they lend them out to educators, to libraries, and they just want proof that you developed a program and that, whatever kind of experience people had. And it is aimed to work with kids, with younger kids, but particularly middle schoolers, but they were willing to let us use it, especially because we were looking to bring in families for this whole event. So that was great, and we were able to keep them for a few months, and people just really liked the opportunity to be able to use them. So we identified 4 branches within our system that we had put a barcode on the unit, and it could be removed when we were able to return it, and it would be in our catalog. So people would check them out with their library card and then return them in a couple days. They were given a whole policy sheet that we came up with that was based on other materials we check out like that, like we lend out laptops, not to go outside of the building, but to stay inside of the building, but we still require people to sign in and sign out and commit to giving us money if the item is returned broken. Basically, we would put that on their library card, and that seemed to work very successful. Not any hassles with that. And then people were able to participate as well if they had their own units. So how people found out about the whole geocaching event, we did advertise in our normal library channels, whether, on our library website and the Big Read blog and our newsletters, our paper newsletters, but we also put it up on geocaching.com, which is the site that all the geocachers, or most of the geocachers, many of them, go to find out what's going on in their area. Where are the geocaches hidden? And they can search by region, so they can type in Charlotte and see what is going on. And so that's how they found out about it. And it was a great way to connect people that might be geocachers but might not be library users. So that was really cool. And to get back to how this all related to the Big Read, to the To Kill a Mockingbird book, the clues that I came up with. For example, one of the branches I used as a place to put a cache was they had a poster. And the poster was about their To Kill a Mockingbird programs. So they had a movie showing, they had a book discussion coming up, and we put the coordinates for a cache on their poster. And I asked them, can I just put it at the bottom so it's not real visible, but it's not totally invisible so that people have no idea where to find it? And they were like, sure. And then those coordinates people were able to locate with their unit, and then those coordinates took them to the next place in the series. And the next place in the series happened to be the courthouse, which wasn't related to the public library in the sense of being at a branch, but it was an important building in the book of To Kill a Mockingbird. And that was the clue that they were given. So they were given the coordinates, and then they were given the courthouse, and then they were told to look for a plaque at the courthouse based on these coordinates. And then on that plaque they would find a date, and the date was a number like 1947 or something like that. And then they were told to subtract a number from that date to get the coordinates for the next cache. So those are a couple examples of how it related to the book and how it moved on from one cache to the next. And the last cache was a camera where people were able to take photos of themselves and say, hey, I completed this project, and then we uploaded that photo to our Flickr site, which was, again, another way they could see what other library programs were going on. And I'm going to go ahead and read this quote that someone had made. They had left a comment on the geocaching.com site about their experience, which is really great feedback to be able to have. And they were an adult participant, and their comment goes, "For the win, wow." I was very intrigued by this cache when I saw it come up last week, and I decided to tackle the stages during the week. I got 3 of them during my travels over the course of a couple of days, and I really wanted to finish it over the weekend. The last couple of stages were a bit of a haul from my home base. Not that that's ever stopped me before, so I decided to do these this afternoon to keep my mind off the Panthers game tonight and to complete the cache. All of the stages were a lot of fun, and I met some really nice people working in the libraries along the way. I didn't know that the cache at the first stage even existed, and I've been going to this branch for many years. I have never visited the last 2 locations, so this was a treat as well. I got my picture taken at the final stage while holding the log with my name at the top. Very cool. I read To Kill a Mockingbird in the summertime when I was a teenager, and it still ranks in my top 15 best books ever read. I was so jazzed about finishing the cache that I checked out a copy so I could reread it and celebrate. Thanks so much for setting this cache up. I had a blast. What a great comment from a patron in regards to designing a big game with geocaching. That's wonderful, and making that connection with the library is really fortunate to be able to do. So there's a bit about how I started organizing the program, and hopefully it gave you some tips to start your own and some inspiration as well. Again, my name is Kelly Czarnecki. I'm the Technology Education Librarian at Imaginon, and I can be contacted at the Public Library of Charlotte in Mecklenburg County in North Carolina. Thank you.